Carla Cross. Hey, thank you for joining me for the last of this 5-part video series, Top Tips for Trainers, Creative Teaching Techniques to Increase Learning and Audience Engagement. Well, you know, I decided to do this series to help all of you first who've taken my instructor development or train the trainer course. What I've found is even though I demonstrate all of these methods in class and you have the outline so you can see where these methods are used and I point those out, it's still a big leap from watching me do it and you doing it with me in the instructor development course versus you do it for yourself in the course that you've probably been given to teach or a course you've tried to write. So it took me many years to learn how to do these things and lots of instructor development courses that I went to. So I want to cut that time for you. I want to save you a lot of money and time and help you imbue some of these creative techniques into your courses so that it's a lot more interesting to people, it's a lot easier for you, and people learn a lot more. So this is the last in the series, and this one is putting it all together, creating a workshop that works. Now, you can certainly look at any of these videos in the series in any order, but if you really want to do it right, start with video number 1, which I basically ask you to start with the end in mind and what do you want to accomplish, and we start working with that, and then we go into each of the teaching techniques of task force, case study, and role play that I want you to start putting into your workshop so they work. Now, what we've got here then is that I'm going to give you a workshop cheat sheet. I'm going to explain what it is, and then I'm going to show you how you can grab it, because this is one of the things when I'm teaching my instructor development workshop that people like the best. So I want you to use this cheat sheet in order to put the creative teaching methods in the right order and also to rearrange those courses you've been given to teach that really aren't very teachable. So let's jump right in. First of all, what is a skill building workshop? And as you remember that I've taught you to always define your terms first. That's a big mistake we make, especially as title people, mortgage people. We start running right into our course subject matter without defining what we're talking about. So what's a skill building workshop? A workshop that culminates with students practicing the skill named in the learning objective. Now, you might have a series of these workshop models in a course. And in fact, there's one course that I used to teach for a big real estate company that actually had this model reiterated over and over and over. And guess what that course was? It was doing a listing presentation. So you'll see what I mean in a little while. So I want you to use it when you want to assure the students have the skills you want them to demonstrate. That's your test. Don't try to use a multiple choice or true and false test to test whether people have skills. That doesn't test anything except they can answer the question. How do you know they have the skills? You observe them using the skills in class. Here's an example. The skill learning objective, as a result of this workshop, students will be able to make an in-person sales call. Right? So that's your test, and you were teaching how to make a sales call. Now, before we go any further, I want to show you that skill building workshop cheat sheet so that you can snag it yourself. This is the skill building workshop model, and it shows you how to start the class, how to put in your teaching methods called alternative teaching methods, by the way, because they're alternative to lecture, and how to do them in an order that makes sense and flows nicely. So I'm going to give this away to you. Here's how to grab the form. There is the address, and you'll see it again toward the end of this video, so you don't have to worry about grabbing it there, but I'm going to talk you through this for just a minute. So here's how it goes. So let me go to the next page to talk you through it. Again, don't worry if you haven't grabbed the address to get this. I'll be showing it to you again toward the end. Here's how it goes. First of all, it starts with low student accountability because we don't want to scare them to death at the beginning. So you set the stage and poses a problem. And if those of you who've taken instructor development, remember that my persuasive presentation model always starts with, what's the problem? What's the real? Or if you've taken a speech course or you're in Toastmasters, you know that when you do a persuasive presentation, you start with what's the real or what's the problem, and then you help them solve that problem, which motivates them to take action. Well, we start a skill building workshop much the same way. We're going to pose the problem, and we can do that with a lecture or town hall. That means talking with everybody. Then you're going to tell the procedure for finding the solution, and then you're going to have the people prepare for role play, and they can do that in a task force, and they could even do it alone. And then the work is that you're going to put them into a role play. And remember, every person's going to play each role. You're going to have a end user, which could be your agent. You're going to have a receiver, which could be the client, the buyer. And you're going to have an observer. And all three are going to play all three roles. After they've all played all three roles, then you're going to lead the final exercise, which is the publishing or generalizing. So if you don't, you got to do that part because you want to know what happened. What worked for you? What were the challenges? How would you use it in real life? What are some good examples? You might even have some people come up and demonstrate how they did it. Okay, this is a really cool thing to do. So I'm going to take you back through this and then use it with an example for you, all right? So first of all, let's take that make a call on a client. So what they're going to do is you're going to set the stage of how to make a call to get a lead, let's say circle prospecting. That means going to people in the area and introduce a home happening, an open house, a new listing, a sale, a listing sold, that sort of thing. So you're going to set the stage. You know, wouldn't it be wonderful if you could optimize the first listing you take? But wouldn't it be awful if you put that sign up and then 3 days later down the street somebody else's sign goes up and it wasn't yours? Well, that happens all the time. So I'm going to show you how to actually get more listings from your first listing. Now, we're actually in step 2. Instructor tells the procedure. So now what I'm going to do is to give them a demonstration of how to make that call in circle prospecting. And then I'm going to have them work in task force to refine the dialogue. Then I'm going to put them into role play. One person's going to be the agent, one person's going to be the homeowner, and there will be an observer. And the person will role play making that sales call on someone to introduce that home happening and to ask, do you know? Okay, so those are all the steps. And then after they've each role played, and you got to time all this out, of course, then you're going to lead the final exercise. So you're going to call time, and then you're going to ask them what happened, what worked for you, what did you enjoy doing, how did you plus it, what were the challenges, how might you use it in real life. So there's an example of how to use that workshop. And as I said, this is actually, or can be, a module in a much larger course, and many skill building courses use this over and over and over. I've written courses for most of the major franchises, and this is the module that I use over and over and over. Here's some important points. All skill building workshops are built this way. An example, giving an effective listing presentation. The skill building workshop model is repeated over and over. Finally, after participants have mastered each part of the listing presentation, then they go through the whole thing. This creates competence and confidence. Otherwise, they're just stumbling through and very incompetent. They can get through it, but you have no level of competence. And you and I both know they're going to fail miserably when they try to do that with a seller or a buyer. It's like learning a 32-page Beethoven sonata. You learn portion by portion for perfect practice. Now my question to you is, in the workshop you're going to teach, how competent do you want your attendees to become? Now that's not a question we usually ask. We don't shoot for much competence, but does the client expect us to be competent? You bet. So I want you to use your alternative delivery rules. Those are all the teaching strategies you're going to use, and we've focused in this series on case study, task force, and role play. Those are alternative delivery methods, alternatives to the old boring lecture. I want you to use the cross rules for task forces and case study. I want you to use the cross rules for role play, and you can see those in the other videos. And I want you to use the rules to clear and generalize the exercise. So back to that big question that's the theme through all of these videos. What do you want your students to be able to do? You might say better. And how do you know they can do it for real? Because you're not going to follow them around probably out in the field. So you've got to follow them around inside the class and have them do role play. Now I told you I would show you again where that cheat sheet was. So I want you to get my model. I call it a cheat sheet. Get my model for creating a skill building workshop. This is what all we professional course writers use in writing all those courses. And when they're not written that way, but you're trying to teach somebody a skill, it's just a haphazard mess of information dump. So I want you to go to this address and grab my workshop, and I want you to use it, and then tell me, how did it work for you? Boy, I wish I'd had something like that when I started teaching other people's courses too. And finally, I have other teaching and presentation resources for you. And you can go to carlacross.com for my specific real estate trainer resources, which include presentation strategies, a comprehensive trainer's guide, how to write a course guide, and this is something I have never seen. I also have a course accredited for clock hours in the state of Washington in how to write a course. And also coaching guides. I love this quote, one of my favorites. The mediocre teacher tells, that means lectures. The good teacher explains, that is, goes past just telling. The superior teacher demonstrates. The great teacher inspires, but I want to add one thing. The greatest teacher also has the people as the focus by using these alternative delivery methods or other teaching strategies. Why? Because it goes much further in creating competence and confidence with each person. And I know this by doing all this for now getting to be too many decades. So I want you, don't forget to grab my cheat sheet, the model for a skill building workshop. It's right there. Thank you for watching these series. And again, you can see the rest of them on my YouTube channel, Carla Cross & Company. And let me know how all of this works for you. I am dedicated to you as a teacher, as a trainer, because you guys are the ones that can change the industry. And thank you for your efforts. I really appreciate each and every one of you.